You want to talk a little Georgia and Tennessee here?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, I do want to give Harlan, our good buddy over at the Double Fries No Slaw podcast, the Florida State boys. He said, "Go no Knowles boys," since the 499 super chat. Thank you so much, buddy.
Appreciate
Georgia
it.
and Tennessee. Joe, I'm looking forward to this game. Georgia coming off what I think is arguably their best performance of the season, even though they had a splattering a couple of weeks ago against Kentucky. I thought this past weekend was Georgia's best performance, but they go up against a Tennessee team at home, just got slobber knocked by Missouri. Can't believe that I'm saying that Tennessee got slobber knocked. They did. I'm going to say something that is not going to get a lot of praise this week on this game.
Okay.
I think Georgia wins 14, 17 points, but I do think that it could be closer than some believe. Let me tell you why. I tell you this every time it happens. A team that's in the top 25, when they go back home after getting embarrassed on the road, don't play with them. Do not play with them. But I do that for every other team besides Georgia, because it doesn't matter. Georgia's going to come out and play. Like they're going to come out and play. I think Georgia is the hottest team in the country. They are the best team in the country. I do like Tennessee and what Josh Heupel has done. But, Joe, you know that I like bringing up stats to back up some things that we talk about. They're still a top 17 offense, Tennessee is. I don't think anything that I say is going to matter because of this one reason. You're not going to win mainly because you're playing Joe Milton. I got to be real with you. I don't know if you don't need to go with Nico.
Dude, talk about throwing a guy to the wolves, man, if they threw him in against Georgia.
Sounds good. But you know what? You are throwing him to the wolves. And I get that. But, Joe, I got to be real with you. Those game reps, he will not see a better team, okay? He will not, and they're not going to do this. They're going to roll with Joe Milton, okay? Yeah. But give him a look. Give him a run. Give him a zone read. You're going to have to do some different things and run some things that Georgia has not seen this week if you're going to pull up the upset. The only way, Joe, that they can remotely upset Georgia, two things. If Georgia plays down to, we won the SEC East, yada, 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 they're on the road, whatever. Carson Beck finally has a bad game. Joe Milton's going to have to throw for 300 plus, and I don't think he can do it.
He can't. Against this secondary? So I actually think that you bring up a really interesting point here. Nico Iamaleava, he's going to get in this football game, but when it's 30-0 and Georgia's up by that much in the fourth quarter, look, I think that you bring up an interesting angle here where very often when teams are embarrassed on the road, they're going to come back more prepared in practice. I have been on a bad football team. I was on a very, very bad football team in college, and we got blown out plenty of times. And that next week we came back fighting, and when the score was much closer, usually a one-score game. So when you have that mentality, yes, you're going to come out swinging and you're not going to get embarrassed as much. But we're talking about the fact that they're playing the University of Georgia here. They're not playing any other SEC team. They're playing Georgia. Right. Plain and simple, what we've seen from Tennessee this year, Blake, in the games that they've struggled the most is opposing teams that have figured out their offensive approach, which is if they take away the run game, they can't throw the ball. They will not have success throwing the ball. It happened in the second half against Bama. It happened against Missouri. It's happened in other games throughout the season. Florida's another really good example. Plain and simple, with how hot this defensive line is right now for Georgia and how weak Tennessee's offensive line has been, how much they've struggled recently, they're going to tee off. Jalen Wright, Joe Milton will not have the rushing lanes that they need to succeed. If they struggled last week, they're going to struggle running the ball this week against an even better defensive front. And when they're forced to throw the ball and they're trying to play catch up after this thing gets away from them early, Joe Milton's going to do what Joe Milton does. Hold the ball too long. He's going to get hit. It's going to lead to sacks. It's going to lead to turnovers. This is just a terrible turnaround. Is there anything
that they can do to win? Is there anything they can do to upset Georgia? And let me ask it another way too. Joe, I think Georgia is going to have to lay a massive egg for them to lose. Now,
yes, that's the reality of it. If you're going to lose that football game, it means you're sleepwalking through it. That's the only way that I could see it. It's a total mismatch.
Tennessee, I went back and watched this game today. They only had the ball for like 20 minutes and abandoned the run because they had to. They had to abandon the run because they could not. They had to get Joe Milton. Exactly what you're talking about. Missouri did it to them. Joe, they're still the top 10 rushing offense. Now, stats can be very deceiving, right? And so it got me last week, right? Like it got me last week. I thought Tennessee had grown up a little bit. I thought Joe Milton had gotten better, especially just running the football. They haven't. And I will say this. I do think Carson Beck is facing a secondary in Tennessee that is not really good. They are in the 70s, I believe Tennessee is, and passing yards allowed. Carson Beck could go off again. And look, this will be the third, probably and arguably the third ranked team that they've played in a row, meaning Georgia, and they're going to win all three. Okay, that's an impressive little run here. And going into look, facing a feisty Georgia Tech team. I know Georgia fans are going to laugh at that, but they are a little feisty little. They're like a gnat, man. They're just They're just a little pest. So, look, if there's any chance Tennessee can pull the upset, Georgia's got to lay a flat egg. Milton's got to go for over 300 in the air. And look, I just can't remotely visibly see him doing anything close to that.
He's had opportunities to play really well, and
you know what,
faltered every single time. That's the biggest issue here. He's faltered every single time he's been asked to step up to the plate as a passer. As a runner, he's made some great things happen. Against Alabama, he ran his ass off. He ran over an Alabama defender, and they were cooking because he was running so well. And
but then in the second half, he got absolutely zilched.
He is one of the worst quarterbacks in the country when it comes to holding the ball and not having that internal clock of knowing when to get out, when to get rid of the football. He does not have that trait, that ability to know when to get rid of the football. And this is just the worst matchup to deal with, coming into this week for his weaknesses.
Man, I do hate that for Tennessee, but you're facing a steamroller, man. Yeah. One thing that I will say, I think Carson Beck's going to throw for over 300 again. And Joe, I got to be real with you. I think he needs to be on the podium before Marvin Harrison Jr. I think he needs a New York invite more than Marvin Harrison. So he's not getting the praise that he deserves. I'm going to be real. I think they're better offensively. I think top to bottom, they are more dynamic and more explosive offensively than they were a year ago.
I agree with that. I completely agree with that.
Dude, Carson Beck has all the tools, man. All the tools. When I watched the game from Ole Miss, because I had to go back and watch it. I was watching it when it was live. Wasn't able to really focus in on it. I'm just going to be real. His pocket mobility, like inside the pocket, is
great.
So good. Dude, it's elite. Like, I had an NFL scout, actually a buddy of ours, okay, told me this, I think, late yesterday, which made me go and like watch him do this. He said that he might be the best. He reminds him of Brady the way that he moves inside the pocket, like the way that he feels pressure. With that being said, Joe, I'm going to pick Georgia by 17 here. Okay, I think it gets to 17 just because that game's on the road. I'm gonna go with the home crowd. It maybe not extending, but again, if you're not able to convert on third down, Tennessee has not been great at that. They're going to get boat raced.